AITA for sending my family $1 for Christmas after they billed me $30,000? My name is Avery, I am 35 years old, and I genuinely believed I had my life figured out. I'm a dentist at a private practice in the Loop, right in the heart of Chicago. I was doing well, very well. I'm not saying I was a millionaire, but I made enough to afford a nice condo in Lincoln Park, drive a reliable car that wouldn't break down on Lakeshore Drive, and still maintain a savings account that let me sleep at night. It's that ability to go to bed without the nagging thought, if something happened tomorrow, what would I do? My family lives in Indianapolis. My mom is Carol and my dad is Richard. My younger sister, Megan, and her husband, Kevin, got married 6 months ago. The truth is, I hardly knew Kevin. Not because I was rude, but because that's just how my family has always been. We'd see each other for Christmas, sometimes for Thanksgiving if our schedules aligned. Occasionally, they'd drive up to Chicago for a weekend to see the sights, and every time they came, I footed the bill for everything. It wasn't a case of, oh, look how generous Avery is. It just became an unspoken expectation. Avery, can you spot us some gas money? Avery, we ordered deep dish pizza. Avery, come with us to shop on Michigan Avenue. Avery, we wanted to go to this show. And since I had the means, I paid. Meals, transportation, tickets, whatever came up. I'd tell myself, well, they're my parents, she's my sister, what's the big deal? They didn't have the same financial comfort, that much was clear. And in my mind, that's what family was for. Supporting each other. The funny thing is, I didn't feel taken advantage of at first. I was busy with my practice, my condo, my patients, and my continuing education courses. I wasn't keeping a tally of who called more or who initiated contact. They didn't invite me down to Indianapolis much, and I didn't push it either. I'd just say, I'm swamped with work, I'll visit another time. And so a silent agreement formed. They would visit, relax, enjoy the city, and spend, and I saw them as content. Nobody argued, nobody felt guilty. Until it all shattered. December arrived and Christmas was just around the corner. Exactly 3 weeks away. That year I felt a rare sense of excitement, a desire to do things right. It had been a long, demanding year, and I was looking forward to spending quality time together, sitting around the dinner table, listening to stories, laughing with my parents, and feeling like I actually had a family. So I bought their gifts early. For my dad, a nice watch, the kind he would admire in display windows and say, someday. He's the type of man who never buys anything for himself but notices every detail. For my mom, a high-end stand mixer she mentioned every time she watched a cooking show. Oh look, you can make things so fast with one of those. For Megan, a delicate, expensive piece of jewelry. The kind you know is timeless, that looks elegant without being flashy. I knew she would love it and would never buy it for herself because she had other priorities. And for Kevin, a gift card to a major sports apparel store, because he was always talking about new sneakers, team jerseys, and how one day I'll get myself some good ones. Cost me a fair amount, of course, but I did it gladly. I pictured their faces as they opened the presents. I imagined my mom saying, oh, you shouldn't have, my dad examining the watch, Megan thrilled with the necklace. I was holding on to that illusion. I even requested time off from the practice, which was a big deal. Dr. Evans, the owner, is a good person, but he's also very strict. December is our busiest season. People want to perfect their smiles for the holidays. Whether it's a cleaning, whitening, or a frantic doctor, I'm going to be in all the family photos. Losing a dentist during those weeks is something no practice owner welcomes. I walked into his office with my planner. Dr. Evans, I need to request a few days off for Christmas. I've already planned it out. He looked at me over his glasses. How many days, Avery? A week, but I'll leave everything organized. I can move up some cases and reschedule patients. Maria already helped me with the schedule adjustments. He was quiet for a moment, then sighed with resignation. Look, I don't love it because we're fully booked, but I also know your work ethic. All right, you've earned it. Just make sure everything is in order, and don't leave me with any fires to put out. Thank you, doctor, I really appreciate it. I left his office feeling relieved, as if I had finally been given permission to breathe. I booked my flight to Indianapolis. I prepped my condo to be empty for a week. I arranged for my mail to be held, set up bill payments, and cleared my pending tasks. I imagined the Christmas dinner, the eggnog, the sound of family chatter, the hugs, all of it. Until one Tuesday afternoon, after finishing with a patient, my receptionist, Maria, peeked into my office. "Dr. Miller, your mom is on line 1. I smiled. I assumed she was calling to coordinate my arrival time or ask me to bring something. I answered with a calm, normal voice. "Hey Mom, what's up?" "Hi Avery. I need to talk to you about Christmas." Her tone caught me off guard. It wasn't warm or excited. It was flat, as if she were reading from a script. "Yeah, sure, what is it? Do you need me to bring something or pick something up there?" There was a short, awkward silence before she said it. "Actually, it would be better if you didn't come this year." I felt the air get knocked out of my lungs. I was silent for a second, convinced I'd misheard. "What do you mean don't come? What are you talking about?" "Well, Kevin's parents and his sister are coming to spend Christmas with us, and well, they don't really get along with you. We don't want any fights or drama during the holidays." I blinked, trying to process the information. "They don't get along with me? I've barely even met them. So you're choosing them over me." "Avery, don't be so dramatic. You're blowing this out of proportion. It's just one Christmas. There will be other years." "But I already requested time off work. I already bought my plane ticket. I already told you we don't want any problems. We'll talk later." And she hung up. I stared at the phone as if it were some kind of cruel joke. My own mother had just disinvited me from Christmas because my sister's in-laws didn't like me. And then, like a scene in a movie, the memory of why came flooding back. It all started when Megan and Kevin got engaged. I met his family at the engagement party. Sharon, Kevin's mom, Gary, his dad, and Brenda, his sister. I arrived with a smile, a thoughtful gift, and the intention of making a good impression. 5 minutes after I mentioned I was a dentist, they surrounded me like I was a Black Friday deal. "You're really a dentist?" Sharon said, her eyes gleaming. "What a blessing. A few of us have been having some issues." "Yeah, I need you to take a look at something too," Gary added, tapping a molar. "And my wife here, and my daughter even more so." Brenda, with a strange smirk, asked, "So, do you have your own practice or how does that work?" I answered honestly, without any issue. "I work at a private practice in Chicago. We see patients by appointment there." Gary jumped in, full of confidence. "Well, you can help us out then. You know, for family." I froze. They weren't asking, "Hey, can you recommend someone?" They were assuming I was going to provide free treatments, and they were doing it in front of everyone. The music was playing, people were eating, Megan looked mortified, and my parents looked uncomfortable, unsure of what to say. I took a breath and tried to sound calm. "Look, I can't do free work. I don't own the practice, and besides, there are material costs and lab fees. But if you need something, I can see about getting you a good discount or scheduling an evaluation." Sharon laughed as if I'd told a bad joke. "Oh, please, we're family now. Don't give me that nonsense about appointments." Brenda rolled her eyes. "Oh, so you're one of those who only cares about money." "It's not about that," I said. "It's just not my decision to give away the clinic services." Sharon pursed her lips. "What a disappointment. We thought that by joining this family, we'd have a dentist who actually cared." Gary delivered the final blow. "This is why people talk badly about doctors, always wanting to charge for everything." I felt my face flush with a mix of humiliation and anger, but I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make a scene. I just said firmly, "It's not a matter of wanting to, it's a matter of what's possible. I can help you with a significant discount, but I can't do it for free." Sharon lifted her chin. "Well, we'll see who's willing to actually help us." From that moment on, they gave me the cold shoulder. For the rest of the party, whenever I tried to speak, they'd turn away. If I said hello, I'd get a one-word reply. It was awkward, cold, and incredibly rude. Later, my parents pulled me aside. "Avery," my dad said, "maybe you could reconsider just to keep the peace." "Reconsider what?" "Sponsoring dental work for people I don't even know." "It's not that much for you," my mom, Carol, told me. "And you'd be doing Megan a favor. You know how in-laws can be. If things start off on the wrong foot, everything gets complicated." I looked at her as if she were a stranger. "Are you telling me that to keep the peace, I have to pay for treatments for people who were rude to me from the moment we met?" My dad tried to soften his tone. Look, honey, don't get upset. Just think about it. No, I said. I'm not going to think about it. I am not paying for strangers' dental work. They are not my family. They are Megan's in-laws. Megan and Kevin were upset with me for a while. Megan complained. You made them feel bad. And I just looked at her, stunned. Kevin stayed quiet with a look that said, well, yeah. But guess what? When it came time to plan their honeymoon, they were suddenly very friendly. Avery, we're a little short, Megan told me. Just this once, we promise we'll pay you back. And like a fool, I helped them. Of course, they never paid me back in full. And so the pattern was set. When they wanted something nice, I was the sister who was supposed to help. When it was about spending time with me, I was the one who was in the way. With that history, the phone call made perfect sense. Kevin's parents, Sharon and Gary, were going to be at Christmas, and since they couldn't stand me, my family decided it was easier to exclude me than to set boundaries with them. Me, their daughter, their sister. That day, I went through the motions at work on autopilot. Patients came in, I smiled, I made diagnoses, I explained cleanings and crowns, but inside my mind was buzzing. I got home that night and saw the beautifully wrapped gifts on my coffee table. It made me furious to see them all ready to go, knowing I wasn't welcome. I opened my laptop to start the return process. Process refund, print label, return in store. And as I was doing that, an idea hit me, a brilliant one. If they didn't want me at their Christmas, then I was going to give myself the Christmas I actually wanted. One without walking on eggshells, without enduring rude comments, without pretending everything was fine, and without spending a fortune just to be treated like an unwelcome guest. I closed the return tabs and started searching for trips. I had always wanted to take a real beach vacation. Not just a quick weekend getaway, but something that truly felt like a break. I found a great deal for a beautiful resort in the Bahamas. Ocean view, a spa, a private beach, a room with a balcony. One of those places you see in magazines and think, that's a real vacation. I did the math. The cost of the gifts, plus the flight to Indianapolis, plus what I always spent while I was there, plus any other emergencies that came up, was a substantial amount. And honestly, the trip to the Bahamas was cheaper than financing everyone else's Christmas. Just like that, I booked it. 7 days, from the 24th to the 31st. Christmas on my own terms. The next day I returned every single gift. And with that money, I upgraded to a room with an even better view. Well, I thought, if I'm going to treat myself, I'm going to do it right. I also canceled the flight to Indianapolis and kept the travel credit for later so I didn't lose the money. And with that, there was no turning back. For the next 2 weeks, I poured myself into my work to keep my mind occupied. I woke up early, went to the practice, saw patients, signed paperwork, and reviewed case files. In the evenings, I shopped for light clothes, sundresses, and sandals. I got a manicure and I bought myself a nice camera, not to show off but because I wanted to start capturing my own life, not everyone else's. And exactly 1 week before Christmas, I received an email from my mom. Subject: Megan's Christmas gift, payment required. I opened it with a sense of morbid curiosity, thinking, let's see what they've come up with now. Hi Avery, we decided to give Megan a wonderful surprise. A brand new car from the dealership. Since we don't have that kind of money and you do, we need you to pay for it. I've attached the purchase order. The dealership needs the payment to release the car and deliver it before December 31st. Love you, Mom. Attached was a formal-looking document with the dealership's logo, like a bill of sale, for the amount of $30,000, and the deadline was real. This wasn't a joke. They had gone and committed to something, and now they expected me to swoop in and be the hero of their holiday. I sat there and felt a wave of heat rise up my neck. I read the email 3 times and still couldn't quite believe it. I replied quickly and directly, careful not to use any harsh language because that's not who I am. Mom, I will not be paying for Megan's car. I never agreed to this, and I am not responsible for gifts you decide to give. Avery. I thought that would be the end of it, but the next morning at 7 a.m. my phone rang. It was Carol. I answered, and before I could even say, hello, she was yelling, how dare you? We are counting on you. Do you think this is some kind of game? Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is going to be for us? That is not my problem, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You should have thought about how you were going to pay for it before you made that commitment. You have a responsibility, she yelled, her voice getting louder. She is your sister, you make good money. You've always cared more about money than your family. I have no such responsibility, I replied. And you have no right to buy something like that and send me the bill. We already told everyone, she shrieked. The whole family knows, Kevin's parents know. If you don't pay, they're going to think we're liars and Megan will look bad and it will cause a huge fight. Is that what you want? That is your problem, I repeated slowly, making sure she understood. Not mine. Then you can just forget about us, she screamed. If you want to stop speaking to me, that's your choice, I answered. But I am not paying for the car. I hung up on her. 15 minutes later, the text message assault began. First Carol with long rambling texts. You are a terrible daughter, selfish, greedy. How could you do this to your sister? Then my dad. Honey, your mother is right. Family supports each other. Don't be like this. Then Megan. I can't believe you're doing this to me. You're so cruel. Do you really hate me that much? Voicemail started coming in, then more texts. One after another, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing, all with the same theme. I was the villain for not paying, I was the selfish one. I was the one tearing the family apart. I didn't respond. I just stared at my phone as if it were a foreign object, and the sheer absurdity of it all hit me. They had kicked me out of Christmas but still expected me to be their ATM. After a while they changed their strategy. They went from insults to pleading. Avery, please, we'll pay you back a little at a time. Do it for your sister. Please don't leave us in this position. I continued to ignore them. That night the final blow arrived. A message from Carol, cold and sharp. Since you refused to help your family, we're taking you out of our will. Don't contact us. You're no longer our daughter. I read the message and set my phone down. I surprised myself because I didn't cry. I didn't feel that gut-wrenching sense of loss. I felt relief, like when you finally set down a heavy backpack you didn't realize you've been carrying for years. December 24th arrived. I woke up early with a strange sense of peace. I packed my suitcase without rushing. I locked up my condo, double-checked that I had my keys, left everything in order, and called a rideshare to O'Hare. On the way, the city was quiet for that time of day, that particular quiet you only get on holiday mornings when people are rushing to do their last-minute shopping. I looked out the window and repeated to myself, this time it's for me. At the airport I bought a coffee. I walked through security without any stress. I found my gate and sat down to wait. I had a ticket in a more comfortable class than usual, not to be flashy, but because it was my gift to myself. I boarded the plane, stowed my carry-on, settled into my seat, and took out a book I had been wanting to read for months. The flight was calm, the kind of hours that pass quickly when you're absorbed in a good story, and the view from the window. Nobody bothered me, nobody called me, nobody sent me frantic messages. Just the hum of the plane, my book, and my mind slowly quieting down. When I landed in the Bahamas and the warm air hit me, it felt like a hug. The hotel was even more beautiful than in the pictures. The lobby smelled clean, like tropical flowers and the ocean. I was greeted warmly. I went up to my room, and when I opened the door to the balcony and saw the ocean stretching out before me, my eyes welled up. Not with sadness but with that feeling of, how did I let them take so much of my time? I unpacked slowly, hung up my dresses, arranged my sandals, set up my camera, and just sat on the balcony for a while, listening to the waves. No music, no other voices, no rush, just me. That night, I went down to the restaurant for dinner. The host asked me, table for how many? For one, I told him. He seemed a little surprised but smiled and led me to a perfect table with an ocean view. I sat down and ordered whatever I wanted without a second thought about the cost. I chose an elegant seafood dish and a glass of sparkling wine. It felt strange, like I was relearning how to enjoy myself without feeling guilty. And just as I was about to order dessert, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Carol. Don't forget the mortgage payment is due. Send us the usual amount because the due date is coming up. And we're also short on gifts for tomorrow morning. The family is about to arrive. I stared at the screen, incredulous. The "you're no longer our daughter" message was still fresh in my mind. And now she was back to, send us the usual amount, the mortgage is due. I had been paying my parents' $1,500 mortgage for 3 years. It started when my dad lost his job and they were on the verge of foreclosure. I stepped in to help them out for a little while, until they got back on their feet. And that little while had turned into a routine. Every month, the payment was automatically transferred from my account like it was just another utility bill. I had never considered stopping it because I was afraid of feeling like a bad daughter, and because deep down I was still trying to earn my place, as if paying for things guaranteed my sense of belonging. Sitting there, facing the ocean with that demanding text in my hand, something inside me finally snapped. It wasn't an explosion of anger. It was a moment of pure clarity, the kind that arrives and never leaves. I opened my banking app and found the scheduled automatic payment. There it was, as punctual as ever. I canceled it. One tap. Confirm. Done. Then I made 3 $1 transfers, one to Carol, one to Richard, and one to Megan. They were instant transfers, the kind that go through immediately. And in the memo line for each one I wrote the same thing. Merry Christmas. This is what you deserve. I turned off my phone, raised my hand and ordered dessert. A decadent chocolate cake. I ate the entire thing slowly, savoring every bite while I watched the sea. And for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe with my shoulders fully relaxed. Later, back in my room, I turned my phone on for a moment. I had a flood of missed calls, texts, and voicemails. Answer your phone. What did you do? You've put us in a huge mess. You have no shame. How dare you cancel the payment? I sat on the bed in my hotel robe. I opened one of the last messages and the whole story was there. Apparently, based on the frantic voicemails and texts, the car dealership had been firm about the payment. Kevin's parents found out about the situation. They learned that I wasn't going to pay for the car and they lost it. Sharon and Gary accused my parents of being liars, of painting a false picture of their family's financial situation, of pretending they were generous enough to give away a car. And when they realized there was no money, they claimed it was all an act to look good. The argument erupted on Christmas Day. Shouting accusations. Brenda added her own toxic comments. Kevin tried to calm his family down. Megan was crying from a mix of anger and humiliation, and my parents were trying to justify the unjustifiable. Sharon and Gary ended up leaving the house, vowing they would never spend another holiday with a family of liars. And then Megan and Kevin left too, humiliated, with their dream gift now the source of a massive family scandal. The last message from Carol read, "You ruined our Christmas because you're selfish. Megan and Kevin aren't even speaking to us. We never want to see you again." I put the phone on the nightstand and walked out onto the balcony. The moon was reflecting on the water and I thought, it's funny, they think my Christmas is ruined, but mine is just beginning. The following days were incredible. I woke up without an alarm, made myself coffee, and sat on the balcony to watch the sunrise. Then I'd go down for a leisurely breakfast, like someone who doesn't have to rush off to save anyone's life. I went snorkeling and saw colorful fish I had only ever seen in pictures. I saw a sea turtle swim by unhurried, as if the world were in no rush at all. I got a massage at the hotel spa that left me feeling like I was floating. I took a sunset boat tour, one of those where the sky turns a brilliant orange and the water looks like a mirror. I met a couple celebrating their 25th wedding anniversary. We chatted for a while, they were taking pictures and laughing. They were the kind of people who just seemed at peace. I took pictures of everything. The ocean, the beach, my morning coffee, my feet in the sand, my relaxed face. Not to show off, but because for the first time I was documenting my life, my own life, not just existing to solve other people's problems. On the third day, I posted a few photos on my social media. I rarely posted, but these pictures were beautiful. The view, the food. A picture of me in a hat, lounging by the pool. I wrote a simple caption. The best Christmas of my life. In less than an hour, the comments from friends and colleagues started rolling in. You look incredible, Avery. So happy to see you like this. You deserve it. So jealous in a good way. And then I saw Carol's comments. On all of them, on every single photo. Under a picture of the ocean. How nice it must be to be selfish while your family is struggling. Under a photo of my dinner. Some people would rather eat expensive meals than support their parents. Under a photo of me. I hope you're enjoying yourself while we can't even afford the basics. I froze for a second and then I laughed, a real incredulous laugh. My mother was trying to publicly shame me in front of my friends, as if that would break me. And the worst part for her was that with those comments she was only exposing herself. People aren't stupid. They can read between the lines. I didn't delete a single one. I didn't reply. I just left them there for everyone to see who was who. I stayed for the full 7 days, each one better than the last. The most beautiful part wasn't the luxury. It was the silence. My phone was no longer a source of threats and demands. It was just a device. There were no emergencies, no "you need to support us," no heavy burdens, just the ocean and my own quiet mind. When I returned to Chicago, I felt different. Rested, lighter, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in control of my own life. I went back to the practice and Dr. Evans saw me and said, "You look different." I got some rest, I told him with a smile. Maria said it too. "Doctor, you look so happy." "I am," I replied. "Honestly, I really am." Even a few patients noticed. "Doctor, you have a different kind of energy." And I thought to myself, it's because I'm no longer carrying a weight that isn't mine to carry. About 2 months later, I got a call from an unknown number. I rarely answer those, but something told me to pick up. "Avery," a voice said. "It's your mom." I clenched my jaw. "What do you want?" "This has gone on long enough," she said, as if we just had a minor disagreement. "We need to fix this. We need to be a family again." A small, humorless laugh escaped my lips. "Now you want to fix it, after you took me out of the will?" "We were angry," she said. "People say things when they're under stress, honey. It was Christmas." "Oh, right," I replied. "Because of stress you buy a car without my consent, you send me the bill, you disinvite me from Christmas, and then you demand the mortgage payment like it's my obligation." There was a silence. "We thought you'd want to help your sister," she finally managed. "Family supports each other." "Family doesn't kick their daughter out of Christmas," I told her firmly, without raising my voice. "Family doesn't demand $30,000 and then throw a tantrum when they're told no." "We miss you," she said, and for a second her voice sounded soft. "Can't we just put this behind us?" I didn't answer. "Don't call me again." I hung up and blocked the number. But they didn't get the message. A few weeks later, I was in my office reviewing a patient's file when Maria came in looking nervous. "Dr. Miller, there are some people out here who say they're your parents. They're demanding to see you. They're making a scene in the waiting room." My stomach dropped, but I squared my shoulders. I walked out calmly. And there they were, Carol and Richard, in the middle of our elegant waiting room, with other patients looking on uncomfortably. Carol was speaking loudly with that "nobody tells me no" tone. "We drove all the way from Indianapolis to see our daughter. You can't stop us." My dad stood off to the side, red-faced with embarrassment, not knowing what to do. I saw Dr. Evans peek out of his office, a concerned look on his face. I saw an elderly woman clutching her purse a little tighter. Everyone was on edge. I walked up to them and said clearly without yelling, "You need to leave." "Avery," my dad said, "we just want to talk." "We came all this way," Carol insisted, as if the drive entitled her to an audience. "Don't be cruel, we're your parents. Just give us 5 minutes." "I already told you not to contact me," I replied. "And that includes showing up at my place of work." "Don't be ridiculous," Carol snapped. "We're your family." "I am an adult," I answered. "And I don't want to see you. If you don't leave right now, I'm going to have you removed and I will call 911. I looked at Maria. "Please call building security." "You wouldn't do that to your own mother," Carol said, but I could see the fear in her eyes. "Yes," I replied just as firmly. "Yes, I will. You are causing a disturbance at my workplace in front of my patients. Leave." Dr. Evans stepped up beside me. "Is there a problem here?" "Yes, doctor," I said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "These individuals are disrupting the practice and are refusing to leave after being asked." My dad grabbed my mom's arm. "That's enough, Carol, let's go." "This isn't over," she managed to say as they walked towards the exit. "It is over," I told her. "If you try to find me again or show up anywhere near me, I will file a harassment complaint and request a restraining order." Enough was enough. They left. That was 6 months ago. I haven't heard from them since. I changed my phone number as a precaution. I made sure my address isn't listed publicly anywhere. And at the practice, Maria and everyone else know the protocol. If someone arrives claiming to be my relative, no information is given, they are not allowed in, and security is called immediately. A few months later, I turned 36 and I realized something. My life is so much better now. I work hard, yes, but I no longer work with that crushing weight on my shoulders. I travel when I want. And I've started dating a man named Daniel, who works at a hospital downtown. He's calm, respectful, and most importantly, he doesn't expect me to solve his problems or tolerate unacceptable behavior because that's just what family does. When I told him what happened, his eyes widened in surprise. They really demanded you pay for a car they bought without even asking you? That was just the tip of the iceberg, I told him. 3 years of paying my parents' mortgage, loans that were never paid back, covering all their expenses whenever they visited me. I was their personal bank. Daniel took my hand and said, "You're better off without that." And he was right. I don't miss the drama. I don't miss the emotional blackmail. I don't miss the constant anxiety of wondering what they would come up with next. I don't miss feeling obligated to fix everyone else's life while my own needs were always put last. The money that used to go to Indianapolis every month now goes into my savings and towards things I actually enjoy. I've taken more trips since then, peaceful, guilt-free trips. And next year I want to treat myself to a big one, the kind you plan with excitement, not with fear. Sometimes people ask if it weighs on me, having cut off my family. The truth is, it doesn't. What I feel is relief and freedom, as if I've finally gotten my own life back. Today I'm 36, and for the first time in my adult life, my money is my own, my time is my own, and my decisions are my own. I have a career I love, a healthy relationship, friendships with people who respect my boundaries, and a future that is no longer built on the obligation to provide for others. And honestly, I like living this way. Comment. This story truly resonates with anyone who has ever felt that their kindness was taken for granted. It is a powerful reminder that setting boundaries is not an act of cruelty, but a profound act of self-respect. Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is show compassion to yourself first. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It is a fundamental responsibility you have to your own well-being. You cannot control how others behave, but you always have the power to decide what you will accept in your life. Real healing begins the moment you choose your own serenity over someone else's chaos. I hope this inspires you to honor your own needs and remember that you are worthy of relationships built on mutual respect. You deserve to walk a path that leads to inner peace. Always remember that your well-being matters. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.